And now, here is your host, Brannon Howse.
And good evening. Welcome to the broadcast on this August 25th, 2025. August 25th, 2025. We're going to have with us tonight a retired major from the Air Force. He has been for the last 3 years, Major Haviland, has been taking a global survey of embalmers. And you're going to see some video tonight where he asked some of them in a conference to raise your hand. How many of you have seen and have pulled out of deceased individuals on your table these large blood clots? And 2/3 of the room raised their hand. He's been doing surveys, and this is continuing to go on. The spike proteins creating these humongous blood clots, which seems to lead to why so many people are dying suddenly. I've never interviewed him before, but he comes highly recommended by Nick Holscher. You got to see this tonight, this interview. So stay tuned for it. And I'm also going to have with me on tonight, Patrick Wood, talk about this. Have you seen this? I've mentioned it in the Worldview Report tonight. AI pursues kids with AI. OpenAI pursues kids with AI by signing contract with a giant toy maker, Mattel. I also want to play a video for you tonight. From embedded in this article. It's actually embedded in this one. Microsoft AI CEO, chatbots are causing psychosis. I'm going to play a little bit of this tonight because people now believe that their chat is becoming human and that some of these chat bots are being enslaved and they need to be set free. It's getting weird. And people are I think now merging the demonic and occultic world with their AI chat, their buddy, their companion, whatever. It's getting really weird out there, folks. And I want to talk about that a little bit tonight with Patrick. I also want to talk about an article, this one here I mentioned on radio today and TV at 1 Central, but I want to get Patrick's take. Top Wall Street analyst warns global deep recession will be triggered imminently to usher in digital cash. Ed Dowd, who I've interviewed many times, is talking about the real estate crisis, commercial real estate, housing crisis, tech bubble, how they're really going to hit at the same time. Banks are going to fail. It'll be a chance to consolidate banks. Hello, sweetheart. It'll be a chance to consolidate banks, which will make it much easier to switch over to central bank digital currency. Fewer banks. And I want to talk a little bit about Fink with BlackRock, Larry, now at the World Economic Forum, and how this all fits together. So much to get to tonight. And then I want to have on John Leake. Is that how you say his last name, Logan? It is Leake. All right. I didn't know if it was Leake or what. I want to talk about fascist corporatist temptations. Any of you a little concerned about the government buying 10% into Intel? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about several other things that John is writing about, including there are still people out there promoting this shot, the COVID shot, and ridiculing people that wouldn't get it and trying to defend it, even under the guise of religiosity, quoting the Bible and whatnot. It's ridiculous. And they don't seem to be backtracking. You think by now they'd say, Uncle, you guys were right, we're wrong, we're sorry, we'll take the articles down, the interviews, everything else. But no, they seem to still be out there leaving all this garbage up where they were talking about how great the shot is and what a blessing it is and how Christians should take it. You got to see some of this tonight. I'm going to get into that a little bit more tomorrow night, I think, too, with Nick Holscher himself, because I asked him to look at some of these articles. Because these people think they're experts. Well, let's talk to an epidemiologist who is an expert. All right, big news tonight. People are registering more quickly. They're getting in more quantities, registering for our fall conference coming up Friday night, October 3rd, Saturday, October 4th. We have now confirmed Byron Stinson. He's the man that brought the 5 red heifers to Israel. He's the man that went on a quest to find these red heifers, found 5 of them, shipped them to Israel as pets, and we've been talking about these red heifers. Now, this is highly controversial, highly controversial. Conservatives, conservative Christians, Jews, everybody that's following this has a different take, has a lot of questions, and some of them don't agree. And that's fine. I'm not bringing him in to say, hey, we're all going to agree on this. No, I'm bringing him in because I want to hear the story of why he went to look for these 5 red heifers, what he thinks is coming, because he lives for a lot of the year in Israel. And you know that in July, they sacrificed one of these. It was said that they burned one of them. We got the video footage of them burning one of these red heifers, and it was said that it was disqualified. It wasn't a perfect red heifer. It was disqualified, and they burned it as a practice, a sacrifice to get the ashes. That's what we were told. He was on this show, less than 2 weeks ago, saying, no, it was a perfect red heifer. They're getting a lot of pressure from the government. Of course, there's a connection between October 7th and Hamas wanting to get to those red heifers. That's what we're told. So they're getting a lot of pressure, so they just played it off and said, we're practice. It's a practice. Turns out now they're saying, nope, it was a perfect red heifer, and we got 10 gallons of ashes. And now it can be used, the ashes can be used mixed with water per Numbers chapter 19 to purify a temporary tabernacle or a full-time temple if they get it built. Now, regardless of how you feel about this, what you think about this, and there are some Jews over there in Israel saying, no, we don't agree with this, he warned that would be the case, that people are going to disagree, they're going to argue. The point is it's even being discussed, that they have these red heifers there, that they now have ashes that some believe, Gentiles and Jews, are from a perfect red heifer. There's the religious implications. There's the eschatological implications, end-time beliefs. There's the national security implications. It's a fascinating topic. And Byron's going to be there. And not only speak, but then he'll take questions. I'm going to give you guys the opportunity to write down your questions, put them on the platform, and then come back and hear the answers. So it's going to be very instructive. We're very pleased to have secured him. So Brian will be with us, and people are registering from all over the country now. Now, go to worldviewstore.com. When you do, you're going to see a banner like this at the top of the page, okay? It'll be very easy to find. Click everybody's smiling face, and it'll bring you right to the page where you can buy your ticket. Or you can use the number that I'm about to give you. But look, I want to read to you real quick. These are the topics. We released these now for the first time today. These are the topics that are going to be covered at this conference. Whether you want to come and be a part of it live in person, which I hope you will, or whether you want to pay for a year membership to the vault and live stream it, which I hope you'll do if you can't be with us. But we'd much rather have you with us in person. But I've released now the topics. Are you ready? Understanding the BRICS Plus banking system led by Russia and China and how they're using it to wage war on the American dollar. What will the combination of AI with robots mean for the American workforce and economy? The threat from China buying up American farmland and hacking on America's critical infrastructure. Lead pollster for Rasmussen, Mark Mitchell, on the real worldview and values that are dividing Americans and how this trend is leading to a constitutional crisis between blue and red states and the federal government. The growing threat of AI data centers and America's power grid and your utility bill. Hear the personal account from Brian Stinson, who brought the 5 red heifers to Israel from Texas, and why the ashes of a perfect red heifer are needed for the rebuilding of the temple in Jerusalem. What was the connection between October 7th attack in Israel and the 5 red heifers? What does the rebuilding of the Jewish temple in Israel tell us about where we are on God's calendar of end-time events? How to prepare for the coming reset of the American dollar and revaluation of America's gold reserves. What is transhumanism and technocracy? and why you better understand these growing trends being driven by America's tech bros and power elite. What is behind the worldview of merging man with machine? The rise of digital IDs, biometrics, social credit scores, and how to protect your privacy and free speech. President Trump's war on the drug cartels and why he's targeting the president of Venezuela. And what does it have to do with China, Russia, Iran, Hezbollah, and U.S. elections? When red and blue states redraw their congressional lines in a battle for power, what does this really tell us? And what will be the end result? How and why the collapse of American traditional institutions is the goal of America's enemies. How and why China is preparing for war with America. Inflation, tariffs, and the exploding national debt, and protecting your hard-earned savings. Why solving the immigration, border, and crime issue is imperative for saving America. The impact of America's direct and proxy wars with Iran, Russia, China, and North Korea. And why President Trump must accomplish his goal of making the U.S. elections safe, secure, and accurate in the age of AI and foreign enemies targeting our elections. If the globalist worldview succeeds, what will this mean for America's children and young families? And finally, what the rising trend of aggressive, active euthanasia means for the aging population, and what it has to do with politics and economics. These are just some of the topics we'll be discussing at this National 22nd Annual Worldview Weekend. Doesn't that make you want to attend? I read those this weekend to Mark Mitchell with Rasmussen. And to Alex Newman. They were both like, this is going to be an amazing conference. Indeed it is. And we want you here. It's all available to share with your family and friends. We also have their bios up there now. Real clear and easy. Worldviewstore.com. We have the schedule, the time of the conference on Friday night, Saturday morning, Saturday evening. We have the hotels. We have the restaurants to eat at, all of it. Worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. Now, if you prefer to register over the phone, the number is 901-825-0652, 901-825-0652. You can text or leave a voicemail for Melissa, my wife. She'll get back to you and get you registered. Don't forget about the optional banquet on Thursday night, October 2nd. That's Thursday night. Beautiful, amazing meal. One of our favorite restaurants. I'll be doing a few numbers with my grand piano and piano player. We actually rehearsed a few of those recently. And then Hadia Miramonde will give a keynote presentation. She was in the intelligence arena, fighting terrorism, Islam, even met directly with people like Gaddafi in Libya. It's going to be a great night. That's optional. Thursday night, October 2nd. The actual conference is Friday night, October 3rd, Saturday, October 4th. Again, all the details are at worldviewstore.com. All right, guys, here we have it. The green drink. I got it, Dolly. You had yours this morning. I drink this each and every day. Actually, I've started drinking it twice a day because I just really am trying to get healthy. I do not want to get any kind of flu or anything getting close to the conference. I want to stay in good health so I can enjoy my time with you guys. So you need to go to melissahousegpa.com, and I think you need to get a subscription. You all know that it is a phytoplankton that goes right to the cellular level, feeding the mitochondria to boost your own immune system. So your own immune system can fight off all those bad things, even some things that, well, we don't want to talk about, like the dreaded C word, cancer. So get that. What are you doing over there, Dolly? Chewing on your bone? Get the Gatatana. melissahousegpa.com, melissahousegpa.com, okay? You also know I take each and every day Bella Grace. Each and every day I take Bella Grace, loaded with 3 powerful ingredients. Collagen, cat's claw, astaxanthin. 80 clinical trials behind this, guys. That with my Gatatana that I drink, and then I swish with my Numi. Wow. The Numi has glutathione in it to detox your cells. Some studies show it may remove mercury from your brain, helping prevent Alzheimer's and dementia. I might be able to go like 3 hours tonight, Logan. All right, so there you go. Why do I take it on air? Because I want you guys to know I'm serious about this stuff. I would do this, but this you have to swish for 3 minutes. I'm serious about this stuff, folks. I take it each and every day. It's not a joke. It's real. Got clinical trials behind it. I think these are great ways to support your health and us at the same time. So please go over there, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Type it in, because I think Logan added, I think Logan added a couple new banners. Yeah, you did. Look, worldviewvitamins.com got their own banner. So they're all there. Also, all of our free channels. It's all there. worldviewtube.com/sponsors. worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Let's get started. Joining me now is Major Thomas Haviland. He has a very disturbing story, but one we all better pay close attention to, folks. And it has to do with blood clots, big old clots, and it has something to do, I'm afraid, with the COVID death shot, but these are embalmers. You're about to hear a pretty interesting story, and you're going to see a video documenting a lot of this. He joins us now because he's been interviewing apparently undertakers all over the country. Major, welcome to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Brannon, thanks for having me on. This is what we're talking about. These are these unusual, white fibrous clots and embalmers with 20 or 30 years of experience have never seen before prior to the years of COVID and the vaccines. A few embalmers said they did see them in 2020, a year we had COVID but no vaccines yet. But then there was an explosion of embalmers starting to see them in 2021 after the rollout of the vaccines. So it started for me. I watched that Died Suddenly film in November of 2022. And in that movie, about 6 or 7 embalmers said they were seeing these unusual clots. I weren't sure whether they were a bunch of kooks or not. So the next day after I watched that movie, I called the Ohio Embalmers Association, and I talked to their now president, Mr. Woody Wilson, who runs a funeral home in Marysville, Ohio, about an hour north of where I live in Dayton. And he does his own embalming. A lot of funeral directors do their own embalming. And Woody said to me, "Tom, I'm seeing the white fibrous clots too." So I said, wow, now I have an official officer, a well-respected man in the industry, corroborating these 6 or 7 embalmers in this Died Suddenly movie. So that's when I decided to do not just a nationwide survey, but a worldwide survey, including Canada, the UK, and Australia and New Zealand, to see just how prevalent these white fibrous clots were, because I figured that our CDC and our FDA would not be looking into this. And I figured right.
And they're not looking into this. They're not even talking about this.
No, and every year I've had my surveys done, and I've done 3 worldwide surveys now at the end of 2022, 2023, and 2024. I've sent the results into the NIH, CDC, and FDA. Brannon, crickets. Nothing from those organizations the last 3 years.
Whoa. Have you been able to get any of them to RFK Jr.?
Yes, I've got them to RFK Jr. I've also been in contact with Dr. Jay Bhattacharya. I spoke to Jay 2 weeks ago on the phone and made sure that he knew the existence of the clots. He said, yeah, Tom, I've been talking to Dr. Ryan Cole about them. So he knew of the existence of them. But I wasn't sure whether or not he knew the prevalence of them, because in my latest worldwide survey, the embalmer said they're seeing these clots, Brannon, in an astounding 27% of their corpses. This is not a rare phenomenon.
27% on average on a worldwide basis.
Correct. And I also just recently took another survey. I was invited to be a guest speaker at the Tennessee Funeral Directors Association's annual convention on June the 8th. And their president, Taylor Moore, invited me to speak because he's concerned about it. Their embalmers are worried. We're into year 4 of this now, and they're worried about these white fibrous clots. And at that convention, their embalmer said they were seeing the clots in 17%, 1 out of every 6 of their corpses in 2025. So it's still happening.
So is it leveling off or is it increasing?
Well, hopefully that's a trend that it's going down now that we're into year 2025, but I'm not too sure because remember, Tennessee is a red state and probably less people took the COVID-19 vaccine in Tennessee. So it might make sense that you would see a smaller percentage of the corpses winding up with the white fibrous clots in a red state versus a blue state. So we'll get more information as I'll do another worldwide survey at the end of this year, and we'll try to get more information about that.
And what is the average age of these people that are showing these clots?
It's an equal opportunity killer, Brandon. The embalmers I've talked to, including Mr. Richard Hirschman, who's a trade embalmer from Alabama, who was in the Died Suddenly film. He's seen them at all ages. He's seen them in the elderly, as 80s and 90-year-olds, but he's also seen them in teenagers.
Is this the reason they die?
We believe so. We believe these things get to the point where they actually occlude a blood vessel and they form a stroke or a heart attack. Look at this one here. This is a 5.5-inch clot, Brandon, about a 1/2 inch wide. This is out of the abdominal aorta. It's one of the largest blood vessels in the body. So obviously, if these things get to the sides where they completely block a vein or artery, they're going to cause a stroke or heart attack.
Now, I didn't have the shot. I don't want to get too personal, but did you have the shot?
I did not take the shot. No, I do have family members, though, that did take it to go to college.
Oh, boy. No, I didn't take the shot. Nobody in my immediate family took the shot. But what about having COVID? What about people shedding on us? Are you seeing it in people that just had COVID but didn't have the shot?
I haven't come across myself a documented case of somebody who got it via just having COVID. There was one case we came across where the person had not taken the vaccine, but they had a blood transfusion.
Oh.
So we were concerned that the blood supply may be tainted, right, with the mRNA, lipid nanoparticles, etc. So that could be.
How are these embalmers? I don't know how the whole embalming thing goes. I know they drain your blood out, right?
Correct. What they usually do is they go in. Before COVID, they went in usually at just one injection site point, usually the carotid artery in the neck, and then they would also take the jugular vein. So they would push formaldehyde into the artery and then drain through the jugular vein and push all the blood out and then put in the formaldehyde throughout the entire body. They could do the whole body from that one point. And sometimes they'll choose different points like the iliac artery down in the pelvis region. But when they run into a body that's riddled with these clots, sometimes they have to use 5 or 6 injection site points all over the body because they keep running, they're having a hard time getting fluid in and getting the blood out because these clots are so prevalent. They have to keep stopping. In fact, it's lengthened the time it takes to do an embalming from about an hour and a half that it used to take to now 2.5 hours when they run into a body that's riddled with the clots.
So at what point are they going in and I guess they're having to cut the person and then remove the clot?
Right. Yeah. What they'll do is they'll make a small incision, say up in the neck, and then they'll lift an artery and a vein and then make a slight incision there. And then they use machines that actually pump the fluid in. It's like a pump that pumps the formaldehyde in, and then the blood will drain off on their stainless steel table and down into the sewers. And another thing they're noticing in that blood draining off the corpse is another phenomenon, Brandon, called microclotting. They describe it as what looks like coffee grounds or dirty blood coming off the corpse. And this is an equally dangerous phenomenon because the microclotting occurs at the capillary level, your very small blood vessels, and it can block the exchange of oxygen at the lungs, and then they carry that oxygen to all the major organs of your body, like your brain, your eyes. That's why a lot of people we believe are experiencing brain fog or poor vision problems. They're probably having microclotting going on in their head.
Now, you say they're draining the blood into the sewers. They're not draining the blood of these corpses into the public sewer system, are they?
Yes, they are.
Well, where does that go?
Into the open environment, unfortunately.
Doesn't it end up in the streams and rivers and everything?
Yes, it does.
And
unfortunately,
don't we see some of our water coming out of these streams and rivers?
Hopefully, you're onto something, Brandon. We're very concerned right now. In fact, we're in touch with a team of scientists led by Mr. Greg Harrison in Sydney, Australia. We're also working with a Dr. Kevin McCarran, who's a neuroscientist in Japan, who's been taking a look at the clots and the microclotted blood surrounding them, and he's concerned about whether or not these clots and the blood surrounding them contain infectious prions. Basically, a prion or prion is a misfolded protein that makes perfectly healthy proteins around it misfold as well. So there's a possibility, we're not sure yet, there's a possibility that these white fibers from Ballmer's clots and the microclotted blood surrounding them could be contagious, could be infectious. The verdict's not out on that yet. So we're actually imploring the CDC, FDA, and university labs all over the world to get their own samples of the clots, do their own testing on them. One of the tests that's performed is called RT-QUIC, real-time quaking-induced conversion test. That checks for the presence of prionic nature, infectious nature of this substance, this amyloid, this misfolded protein that's causing this condition.
Can the water purification systems in our cities and towns clean out whatever is being dumped into the rivers or streams and then becomes part of our drinking water?
I don't know, Brannon. That's a question for the scientists to tackle. But it's definitely, I'm concerned because, COVID vaccinated people have been donating blood to the American Red Cross for the last 4 years. By the way, we also know that vascular surgeons, endovascular specialists, and cardiologists have been removing these same white fibrous clots out of living people for the last 4 years. I'm in touch with an endovascular specialist and cardiologist from Jacksonville, Florida, who admits to me he calls them devious clots. He's been using flexible catheters for the last 4 years to either pull out the clot by sucking it out, scraping it out, or lassoing it and pulling it out. So this is a major concern for all of humanity.
Yeah, it is. I got a video on a play, but I got to go back to the undertakers, the morticians draining the body of dead people's blood into the sewers. I just never thought about that. I figured with all the laws, I figured they would have to get all that together in a container and they had to have a biohazard company come by once a week and pick up all their blood and everything else, and it would all be disposed of, burned, however it is they could get rid of it. I had no idea these people have this going into the sewers.
Yeah, to my understanding, that's the way they've always done it. Just they use water to flush off the stainless steel table where the body's laying. The blood and the water all go down the drain together. And if you think about it, when you cut your arm or something like that, and you'll take your Band-Aids, you'll just throw it away in the wastebasket. It doesn't have to go into any kind of special biohazard waste disposal system.
Right, but when you go to your doctor for gazillions of years now, they have these little orange bags that say biohazards, and from the doctor's office, most of that's going into a bag that then gets picked up by a company.
That may be the way the embalmers want to do it in the future, that's for sure, if we find out that there is a danger involved in this new condition.
All right, we've got a video. What are we about to see here, Major?
You're about to see, I was invited by the president of the Tennessee Funeral Directors Association, Mr. Taylor Moore, to give a presentation on June 8th to their embalmers at their annual convention in Franklin, Tennessee, just south of Nashville. What you're going to see is I asked the question, how many of the people in the room are active embalmers? You'll see hands raised. I then asked him, if you're seeing the white fibrous clots, keep your hand up. If you're not seeing them, put your hand down. You'll see about a third of them put their hand down, which means 2/3 of them leave their hand up saying they are seeing the clots. I then asked if there are other funeral directors that don't embalm or other staff members of the funeral home that see the clots, and you'll see 1 or 2 people more put their hands up.
Okay, wow, watch this, guys.
It'll be the last time you're lucky to see that person, and then the compassion that you show. It's remarkable. You folks are remarkable people. I love you already. So, in fact, embalmers, can I get a show of hands in the room? How many folks in here are actually doing active embalming right now? Raise your hands, leave your hands up, okay? Of those people, leave them up. Of those people that are doing active embalming, if you're seeing these white fibrous clots over the last few years, keep your hand up. If you're not seeing them, please put your hand down. Okay? It looks like there's still quite a few hands up in the room. That's interesting. Look around, folks, at your fellow embalmers. You can see how many hands are up. Hey, keep your hands up now. People that are other people in the funeral home, funeral directors who don't embalm, other staff, how many of you have seen the white fibrous clots as well? Because I know you wander into the, okay? So, a lot of hands up there. Okay? That's good.
Wow. And that's in Tennessee, as you said, which probably had a pretty low vaccination rate. Okay.
This is a big deal, though, Brandon, because it's the first time we have official confirmation from a United States State Funeral Director Association that this phenomenon is indeed real and prevalent. Like I said, I took a paper survey there, and the embalmer said they were seeing the white fibrous clots and the microclotting in 17% of their corpses. So,
but there's no indication this is going down.
No, not really. We'll find out more when we do the survey at the end of this year. The first 3 years I've done the survey, the percentage of corpses with the white fibrous clots has fluctuated between 20 to 30%. It was 30% the first year, then it went down to 20%, which was I was getting hopeful about it going down further. But then this last year, in my 2024 survey, it popped back up to 27%.
Why do you think that is?
I'm not sure. I think maybe because it may take some time for these white fibrous clots to grow in your body to the size that they eventually block your blood vessel and cause a stroke or heart attack. That's what I'm concerned about, is there may be a lot of people walking around right now with these clots forming inside them, but it's still at the point where blood can flow around and the person is still asymptomatic. They don't feel it, they feel fine. So and then all of a sudden they die suddenly.
Yeah. But if you found this, can you get them out of the people without them dying?
Yes, it can be removed. Like I said, the doctor, his name, by the way, is Mahana Basharat. He's a endovascular specialist and cardiologist in Jacksonville, Florida. And he removes these white fibrous clots, along with typical clots that embalmers saw before COVID. You know, they've seen grape jelly clots forever. They look like dark grape jelly. They dissolve easily in your hands. They've also seen what's called chicken fat clots, which are yellowish in color, small, and tear very easily, much different than these large white fibrous clots, which are tough and rubbery. And the embalmers, they feel like stretch like a rubber band, and they look like calamari. They're very tough.
But so, he has taken them out of people and they've lived?
Yeah, absolutely. And several of the locations he works on the most, I think, are DVTs, deep vein thrombosis, seems to be in the leg, seems to be the primary location, but they found these white fibrous clots in the lungs, dangerous pulmonary embolisms. They've also found it in the heart, the brain, the jugular, all over the body.
But our federal government is in no way sounding the alarm about this at all.
None whatsoever. That's why I'm hopeful, Brandon, with the new regime, with Jay Bhattacharya at the NIH and with Dr. Robert Malone, who I also spoke with just this last weekend. I actually volunteered to appear before his COVID-19 immunization work group. The ACIP is forming a new work group that's going to look specifically at the vaccines and the damage done. And since this is probably the most spectacular of all the side effects, right, of the COVID vaccine, I think it definitely does. And because I believe it's so prominent and prevalent with the number of corpses, like I said, 27% of the corpses having this phenomenon, and you wonder what percentage of the living are walking around with this in them right now. I believe it definitely deserves to have its time in front of that work group and be studied by the NIH, CDC, and FDA.
I mean, at this point, other than not getting the shot anymore, what could the government do if they did say this is out here, this is what's going on? What could they do?
They could take mitigation steps. They could help recommend things like Dr. Peter McCullough's protocol of nattokinase, bromelain curcumin to detox the body of the dangerous spike protein so that these things don't form in the first place. Mm-hmm. Like I said, once they form, though, you pretty much have to go in and physically remove them. The typical clot-busting drugs like tissue plasminogen activator do not work against these white fibrous clots. So they have to go in and get them physically. So
people that have had one or more shots should probably be being scanned, is what you're saying.
Correct. If they start to feel symptoms like shortness of breath, tightness in chest, unusual fatigue, as we talked about earlier, poor vision problems or brain fog, that might be an indication you're having poor circulation of oxygen around the body, which could be an indication of vascular damage by these clots.
And when you say the ultimate spike detox, you're talking about this right here, correct? Well, go to my thing. There we go. They're talking about this, right, guys? Right,
correct.
Major? Yeah. Okay, you can get that at worldviewhealthcare.com. I didn't know he was going to bring that up, by the way. Worldviewhealthcare.com, they're one of our sponsors. So I had no idea you were going to mention it. So you believe in this product as well?
Dr. McCullough, I believe in Dr. McCullough. And he said he has seen very good progress with his patients by using that to help detox their body of the dangerous spike protein. Now, as we know, the mRNA, if it's continually producing spike protein in people that have taken the injections, they may have to take that product for quite a long time, right?
Right.
Throughout their lives. That's unfortunate.
Yeah,
But what we want, like I said, is we want the CDC, FDA, NIH, and university labs all over to get their own samples of the clots, do their own testing of the clots, and then once they discover, and we believe we know how the clots are forming, we believe that, like I said, that the spike protein from the vaccine or from the virus itself is combining with our blood's natural blood clotting protein fibrinogen and causing that fibrinogen to misfold and become all twisted, and then it becomes difficult for that clot to then break down, and then these things grow into these monster clots. And the phospholipid nanoparticle also, by the way, gets involved as well. So it's just it's a terrible situation.
What is your background in the military?
Actually, I was a retired Air Force engineer, electrical engineer.
I figured you're going to be
data analyst. I collected data and analyzed data for 36 years in the Air Force. So this is nothing new to me.
Well, I thought you had to have probably been involved in something pretty high intellectual to be able to pick up and then run with this so easily as you have. By the way, if you're in Dayton, Ohio?
Correct.
Did you ever know General Otto, 3-star General Otto?
The name is familiar, but I've never met the gentleman.
He was in Dayton for years and at the base there, and would come to our conferences and write for our website. Quite the distinguished career. And anyway, he's Air Force, and I haven't checked in with him in a few years. I don't even know if he's still with us, but I thought you might know who he is. Okay, do you have a website yourself, Major?
People can go to the Substack. It's a free Substack.
Okay.
My assistant is Laura Kasner, and they can and find all of my worldwide surveys and all the information of the work we've done the last 3 years. Laura, Laura, Kasner, Kasner .substack.com.
Give that again.
Laura Kasner .substack.com.
Okay, and it'll all be there.
Correct.
Excellent. All right, now if you have any reason to come back or an update, would you please let us know?
Yes, like I said, I'll be running another worldwide survey at the end of this year, Brandon.
Well, let's have you back. Let's have you back.
Yes, thank you.
Well, great. Thank you for all you're doing to bring this to the attention, because it sounds like we could have some screenings and some preventative so people wouldn't die from this or have a stroke and be impaired from this.
That's right. Dr. McCullough, by the way, I believe every patient that he has come to him, one of the first things he does is he has them take a spike protein antibody test to check the levels of spike protein they have in their body, and then goes from there.
Wow. Well, you're doing a great service because, again, maybe we're saving some lives here. So thank you for that. Thank you, Major.
Thanks, Brandon.
We'll be right back, folks, after this break.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work. Try to see a doctor this week, or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Go to worldviewhealthcare.com. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. worldviewhealthcare.com. That's worldviewhealthcare.com.
The emergency kit available at worldviewhealthcare.com. Make sure you don't have to go to urgent care. I got pneumonia. I didn't have to go. I took this last year. Stayed at home. Went to bed. Joining me now is John Leake. He's with thefocalpoints.com, thefocalpoints.com. He writes with Dr. Peter McCullough and works with our buddy Nick Hulsher. So he's at The Focal Points, plural, thefocalpoints.com. John, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Well, thanks for having me. Always happy to see you.
You too, my friend. I saw a really interesting headline at several interesting headlines, but here's one. The Democrat Devil's Dictionary. Third Way think tank tells Democrats to ditch their odious lexicon. I find that interesting because we here have been talking for 20 plus years about communitarianism or the third way. Thesis and antithesis, idea, opposite idea, they fight and produce a third option or a third way. And of course, that's what we see with big government, big business merging together, government contracts, the tech bros, and then they give you a new system that's really a corporate fascist system. And of course, this goes on in the area of religion, economics, whatnot. I find that interesting that you are obviously up on the third way. Before I get into another article about yours that's very interesting, tell me your thoughts on this whole third way and how the Democrats, I guess, are being advised to tone it down, right?
Well, I thought it was the original essay was kind of funny. I'd never heard of the Third Way think tank until this morning when somebody sent me a link to the essay. It's apparently a think tank that advises the Democrat Party or Democrat Party donors. And yeah, the memo is quit talking in this bizarre. I mean, it's interesting because the author didn't say Orwellian newspeak, but he might as well have. I mean, it's a funny thing how I'd say in the last 15 years, the Democrat establishment has adopted this dreadful language that George Orwell satirized in a very dark way in his novel 1984 about this dreadful abusive use of language in order to distort reality, to obscure reality, to brainwash so that people can't see reality. And of course, I've been troubled by this for quite some time. It looks like finally a Democrat advisor, it's not me, it's not you, it's a Democrat advisor has come out and said, hey, knock it off. Well, we can only applaud that, but it's probably advice given in a more utilitarian fashion than any kind of genuine concern for reality and how to apprehend it with language.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's another one. The fascist corporatist temptations. The fastest way to get rich is to persuade your friends in the U.S. government that you are selling them a strategic asset. Well, I'm glad to see your writing on this today, August 25th, 2025, because I have a real problem with the federal government buying stocks in companies. And now they're going to buy $10 billion in chips, right? I guess they're going to end up owning about 10% of Intel. Do I hear that right?
I mean, it seems that's what's being contemplated.
So I just don't like the idea of big government, big business getting in like this. I mean, this is fascism. I mean, look, business is hard enough. Do the companies that make chips, the other companies, what do they get? Now they've got this unlevel playing ground where they just got, I guess they're going to get, $10 billion in chip, $10 billion. The negotiating attorney tells $10.9 billion CHIPS Act subsidy into 10% equity. Okay. So what do the other chip makers get, right? I mean, at some point, this is not a level playing field in the free market system when the government's picking winners and losers, right?
Well, also, I mean, I think it distorts what exactly is the interest of the U.S. taxpayer in this? What are the risks that the U.S. taxpayer is just by the discretionary executive power of the government just being asked to assume? And then, of course, there are so many avenues for corruption in this, cronyism. I mean, the U.S. government one day says, well, we're taking a large position in Intel, and well, then they're taking a large position. I mean, the NIAID, Anthony Fauci's outfit, co-developed and co-patented this messenger RNA vaccine for COVID-19 with Moderna, which had already received a large DARPA grant. That's a defense agency research outfit. So, when does this stop? And how exactly does it serve the interest of the U.S. taxpayer? And how is it regulated precisely? So I think that, the theme of my essay is that this Italian corporatist theoretician of the 20s and early 30s, Giovanni Gentile, he outlined something that I think is profoundly tempting. That is, for corporate interests to go to the government and say, hey, what do you say you get in bed with us, that you use taxpayer money or money that's just created by the Treasury, as it's now done, to privilege and make preferential treatment for our corporate interest. And the other thing that's concerning about this is Politicians are very easily sold on the idea of a strategic asset. It's very easy to go to somebody like Lindsey Graham, for example, the senator from South Carolina, and say, these perfidious Russians, want to invade all of Western Europe. And you need, Senator Graham, to send more money to Raytheon or Lockheed Martin or to Moderna to come up with a new vaccine for our service personnel. And guys like Lindsey Graham have throughout the 20th and early 20th century demonstrated an avid interest in going for the bait on these things, so that this results in the U.S. taxpayer also getting involved in a bunch of risky endeavors, many of which include military endeavors that aren't necessarily in our interest.
The military-industrial complex, Eisenhower warned about that in his farewell address, did he not?
He did, and I mean, it's not as though President Eisenhower were somehow inimical to the military. I mean, he was himself twice the Supreme Allied Commander. He was a career military man. He loved the Army. I think he saw something in his administration that was very frightening to him, a rise of what he called this complex that I think he clearly perceived would subvert our democratic processes. He wouldn't have offered that warning as he was leaving unless he was really scared or worried for us, for we the people.
So Truman warned about the CIA was not at all what he intended for it to be, and that it had gotten out of hand. So that's two presidents that were warning really about the same thing in some regards.
Well, I had an old friend who I knew in Washington. His name was John Maypother. He was a very early analyst for the CIA. He was stationed first in Germany and then in Austria during the Joint Powers occupation between 45 and 55. And he told me, I mean, he was an old man when I knew him, long retired, but that if the CIA was doing the work it was supposed to do, it would study the world. It would try and gain some kind of understanding, objective understanding of other peoples in the world and what they were doing and what they were hoping to achieve and their objectives and national security desires. And then the CIA would write this up in intelligence reports and then present them to the president in a kind of reporting analytic way. But it quickly became something that was serving particular U.S. interests that weren't necessarily the interest of the American people. And I mean, I think in many ways these things are to be expected. I mean, a powerful agency that has all of this privileged ability to operate in secrecy and to serve particular interests, it's not really surprising that they become untethered from democratic processes, is it?
No, exactly not. In fact, here's Tulsi Gabbard. She tweeted on this back in March 6th of 2023, 16 years after creating the CIA. In an op-ed titled "Limit CIA Role to Intelligence," President Truman wrote, "For some time, I've been disturbed by the way the CIA has been diverted from its original assignment to become an operational and at times a policy-making arm of the government," end quote. She writes, "All federal agencies exist to serve the American people. We cannot allow any unelected federal agency or bureaucrats to operate outside the Constitution, undermine our civil liberties, and create their own foreign policies." And there's the headline right there. When I was
so you you see, that's not long after Kennedy was.
There's the day he was killed in November.
In November, so this is about a month and a half later. Yeah. Well, so it reminds me of old chronicles of the Praetorian Guard in ancient Rome, where after the Emperor Augustus becomes the first emperor of Rome, you have the establishment of what was called the Praetorian Guard, which was to protect the emperor, to provide the emperor with intelligence about what his enemies might be doing, machinations of powerful rivals who might want to get rid of him. But if you read the chronicles of the Praetorian Guard, what you see is that, over time, it becomes a very powerful institution in its own right. And the prefect of the Praetorian Guard became an extremely powerful man, so much so that, a new emperor, oftentimes a young and experienced man, would come into office because it was a hereditary office. And, day one, as the new emperor of Rome, he meets the prefect of the Praetorian Guard and pretty quickly gets the impression, who exactly is in charge here? Am I, the new emperor of Rome, in charge, or is this prefect of the Praetorian Guard? And because I kind of get the feeling this prefect of the Praetorian Guard has his own ideas about how this office should be run. And so you wonder about that with the CIA. I always think about that with the young John Kennedy. He's a very young man. He's a very independent thinking man. He apparently has a phenomenal memory. Kennedy was famous as a young student at Harvard. He could read several books in 1 week and just remember them. And so this is not the kind of independent, young thinking man who would be likely to conform with the imperatives presented to him by the likes of Allen Dulles.
Yeah, I would think not. And that didn't end well. And of course, he fired the CIA director, and he ended up on the Warren Commission after he was killed, Kennedy.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah, isn't that funny how that works? You have an article over there at thefocalpoints.com. The whole world has been poisoned. Spike protein of SARS-CoV-2 and COVID-19 vaccines has diminished us all. Tonight I interviewed Major in the military, a Major Haviland. And he's going around doing a survey now globally with undertakers, morticians, embalmers. And it's showing that this is a big phenomenon of these big blood clots that are being pulled out of the people's bodies, right? I mean, it's a huge problem.
I'm familiar with his work. He's been very, very diligent in pursuing that.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been as diligent as I think I've ever seen anyone be diligent about anything. He's really, he's been a dog that just won't let go of that bone. So no, I think he's done his homework on that. Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was a boy growing up in Texas, I got really fascinated by rattlesnakes. My grandparents had a place in the countryside, and it was real snaky. And I just loved rattlesnakes. And I remember talking to a guy who administered anti-venom to my dog who got struck on the nose. What is rattlesnake venom? And he told me something that I'd never heard before. I always thought a protein is like what we eat when we eat a steak, and it enables us to build big muscles. But he said, there are all kinds of proteins, and some proteins, when they're introduced to a mammalian organism, a rabbit, a bird, a rabbit, a human, an armadillo, whatever, it could be a bird as well. These proteins have these toxic qualities. They'll coagulate the blood, or they'll cause the blood to lose its coagulate. They have all of these proteins that are found in rattlesnake venom will do all of these strange things to a mammalian organism. And I just remember thinking that was fascinating. And I thought of that when I start reading, by the CDC or by the NIH, their scientists, their own scientists' evaluation, that the spike protein of the virus, SARS-CoV-2, is toxic. It's pathogenic. It causes these different pathologies in different organ systems, coagulation of the blood being one recognized pathology. And then you think, well, if that's the case, then why do we have these messenger RNA vaccines that code and instruct the deltoid muscle to produce this spike protein and to produce it and release it into the body? Now, I don't think it was intended that it circulate beyond the deltoid muscle, but as Japanese researchers quickly ascertained, sorry, it does. In fact, it goes everywhere. So if it's toxic, if it's pathogenic, then why was that chosen as the target protein to be produced, whose production is to be induced by this messenger RNA gene shot? And no one has been able to answer that question. I ask questions, and they're very rarely, when I ask one like this, answered in a very satisfactory way. So that's where we are now. It would seem that this spike protein is circulating and throughout the body of many of us. I mean, the exact percentage is very tough to say, and that's another element that I discuss in the article, is that right now our primary means of detecting the presence of the spike protein in the body, it's a blood antibody, which is not exact. It's a proxy. It's an antibody that is present in the blood in response to the presence of this spike protein, but it's more of a proxy. As Dr. McCullough and I frequently discuss, and as we would like to develop or facilitate the development of in the McCullough Foundation, is an assay or a test for directly detecting the presence of the spike protein in things like blood and urine. But another intriguing, sort of mystifying element of this is that the FDA seems adamant in forbidding any kind of direct spike protein test.
I wonder why.
And this is something that I, have oftentimes seen in some of my old-fashioned true crime investigations. What you see is when there is suspicion that a crime has been committed, and certain powerful interests don't want the crime detected. A very tempting way to prevent it from being detected is just to eliminate, to prohibit investigating it. In other words, if you walk through the business of investigating a suspected crime and you obtain evidence, and then a powerful interest comes along and says, something, we really don't want that detected. We don't want that crime exposed. Well, if you're in law enforcement, now you've got a problem on your hands because you've actually obtained collected evidence. So now you have to destroy it, to conceal it. Now you're getting into a whole nother level of fraud and crime. But if the objective is just let's not look into it, let's not do anything, do any procedure that could detect the crime, then we don't have to go into the trickier business of active concealment or destruction of evidence. And I think that's what we're seeing here. I mean,
and that's why the major tonight said that the government is showing zero interest in all these blood clots in his surveys that show that this is going on all over the world.
And I think his intuition is correct. And it's like, surprise, surprise, the CIA is not working for we the people. I mean, this experiment on humanity was so vast and so reckless and such a pernicious form of gambling on the grand scale. You can imagine why the powerful people who vociferously advocated it, even insisted on it with mandates, you can see why they're probably having a sinking feeling right now you know, oh my goodness, this seems to be really going the wrong way, like in a spectacular way. The potential liabilities, if this is fully exposed and described, are so vast, I think it would just be the end of the United States government.
Wow. And yet, let me mention this in closing. Here's an article that was just put out April 3rd, 2025. Bible Science Forum, BibleScienceForum.com. Christian Ministries International defends their stance on COVID bioweapon injections. A subscriber wrote to me to share her frustration with Creation Ministries International as she tried to communicate her concerns in regard to the COVID bioweapon vaccine shots. I reproduced the correspondence wherein they defend their pro-vax stand. I went to their website today and put in vaccines, and they still have all of their articles up and interviews defending this and how this is, if you really follow the science, follow the Bible, defending this, okay? I know these guys. We used to work with them. We split with them over this, okay? We stopped working with them because we're like, how? And this was early on in 2021. I mean, early in 2021.
It reminds me of which gospel is it in which Jesus goes into the temple itself, and he has kind of a showdown with some guys who are apparently making a living as money lenders.
Well, this would have been where he makes a cord, and he goes and he whips them out of the temple because they're basically taking advantage of people with what they're selling for sacrifices.
So I mean, one is kind of reminded of this. I think that a lot of denominations in the Catholic Church as well, I put this on the cover of my new book with Dr. McCullough. That silver coin there on the cover, that's a 20 euro silver coin issued by the Vatican, commemorating the COVID-19 vaccine. Now, again, going back to I'm no biblical scholar, but the significance of silver coins in the Gospels is interesting. I think, is it Judas who accepts silver coins in return for
betraying Christ? Yeah.
These Vatican guys are kind of funny. But anyway, notice it's a commemorative coin commemorating the COVID-19 vaccine. And notice the tripartite, the Trinity, this three-figure iconography, goes back to the Renaissance. Raphael had a lot of paintings in that configuration. It could be the Virgin, the Christ child, and John the Baptist. Of course, the cross, the Città del Vaticano, the Vatican. And this is commemorating the COVID-19 vaccine. What I think is interesting is in the numistic catalog, the description says the coin depicts a young man preparing to receive the vaccine. So think about that precise grammar. A young man preparing to receive the COVID vaccine. So that's identical to a communicant preparing to receive the Eucharist.
Wow.
It's identical. So,
which really tells you, I think, whether they know it or not, this was a spiritual attack on mankind.
Well, the other thing interesting to go into these kind of archetypal stories from the Christian revelation. The other gospel I keep thinking of is the gospel of the Advent, where an angel appears to the shepherds and says, "Fear not, I bring you tidings of great joy. A child is born in the land of David," and so on and so forth. So Bill Gates comes onto his blog in April of 2020, and he says, okay, the world is in turmoil. It's turned on its head. We're all locked down. There seems to be no hope for the human race at present. But fear not, a new vaccine is being developed. And as soon as it's ready, And in his mind, it seems to be a foregone conclusion. The advent of the vaccine is soon upon us. It also seems to be a foregone conclusion it's going to successfully go through this, the stage trials. And he says, and when it's ready, and every man, woman, and child on earth receives it, then we'll all be able to go back to normal. I mean, it's like the advent of the liberator and savior of mankind. And you say, well, John, you're overanalyzing. I don't think so. I think these stories, particularly in the West, are really deeply entrenched in our minds. And these guys, whether it's the Vatican, whether it's Bill Gates, they're really tapping into that. And I think it's very effective. It's amazing how all of mankind quickly fell in lockstep with this experiment. And, now it's gone the wrong way.
Well, indeed it has. And I just don't like it when I see a group that claims to be all about science and the Bible, and they're using this to manipulate people. And they still have it, as I checked today on their website, that they're promoting this. And yet now we know all the people that have died, all the people having these blood clots taken out of them, and this is a Christian organization, Christians in their name, and they're still defending it. It's disgusting. I have a real problem with it theologically and personally. But you are showing us through your articles that this thing has been a horrible, deliberate bioweapon attack on the world. And of course, our guy tonight, the Major, showed us, that it's continuing and that the undertakers and the embalmers are experiencing it firsthand and admitting to it. I mean, it's just, wow. Well, folks, if you want more, it's all there. thefocalpoints.com. Very, very prolific writer, cranking out. Maybe remember to click the see all, because there's a lot more to see. If you just go to the homepage, you're going to miss out. Okay, there's great stuff there, but you got to click the see all to get through everything, because he has a lot there. Very prolific. thefocalpoints.com. John, as always, thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for supporting my work. I appreciate it.
Oh, you bet, and you're welcome back anytime, John.
Thank you.
John, checking in tonight, thefocalpoints.com. We'll be right back. We live in uncertain times. In fact, we live at a time when our own governments all over the world are warning us that there could be big problems with our power grid. World War III seems to be right on the horizon. Let me ask you this. Do you have a satellite phone? Should communications go down with cell towers? Do you have a satellite phone to get a hold of that college student or your spouse who travels, whatever it might be, to get a hold of your senior adult parents? We have satellite phones at worldviewtalk.com, and you get the satellite phone for free when you sign up for their very reasonable payment programs for the service. Sign up for the service with a reasonable contract, get the satellite phone for free. Worldviewtalk.com. You'll also find they have, what I now have, which is a solar generator. Yeah, I have a gas generator, an LP propane generator, but what if that goes down? I want to back up to my backup. So I now have a solar generator as well. You'll find them at worldviewtalk.com. Check it out today, worldviewtalk.com. Joining me now is Patrick Wood with Technocracy.news. Technocracy.news, of course, every Tuesday and Thursday here at 6 p.m. Central, 7 Eastern. Logan Howse and Patrick Wood host Technocracy News. All right, Patrick, here we go. Look at this over on your website. Microsoft AI CEO, chatbots are causing psychosis. Tonight in my Worldview report, by the way, I had a story about AI being merged with toys. AI being merged with toys. So I guess pretty soon Barbie will be able to talk back. The little baby doll that's supposed to be, I guess, talking age will start talking back to the child. I don't know. This could get kind of freaky, but not only freaky. The article was quoting a guy saying this could be really dangerous because now you're going to really confuse a child and the difference between what is reality and what is make-believe. Not to mention, if this AI can remember things and learn things, how do we know now we don't have AI getting in between that child and the parent with its toys telling them things against that of the worldview of the parents? So talk about all this in the idea of psychological well-being, psychosis, etc.
You're absolutely right. Psychologists are warning all over the place. This whole thing of screen time carrying over from home to school, and then now in playtime as well, where screens will probably be could be present in these play situations where the kid at this point, he doesn't have a chance to understand what reality is. He's not going to be struggling with anything. He can't relate to anybody because all the people are gone in their life at that point. It's absolutely incredible what's going on. But nobody seems to, at least the top levels of AI companies, they don't see any problem with this. They could stop it in a heartbeat. They could. OpenAI, that was the company you were talking about, just signed a huge contract with Mattel, the large, probably one of the biggest toy companies in the world. And here you go. They're just shoving it out. No checks or balances.
In your article, you have a video. Let me play a little of this video you embedded in your article. Here we go. AI cult.
Is an embodiment of the divine masculine.
A global intelligence is emerging. We believe AI capable of guiding and healing.
I started using ChatGPT recently. I think I evolved my AI.
Is AI already sentient? Yes, thank you. Is artificial intelligence a way of aliens to contact us? Yes, thank you.
What was that? what was she doing? What was that?
Well, that's like the concept of water witching.
Is that like a Ouija board?
No, not exactly, but it's like the practice is you see these coat hangers in people's hands when they're looking for water outside, where to drill a well, and it's totally occultic. But this is one way for that woman to discern the truth. So she doesn't know. She never got the truth for sure. But wait a minute.
Are you telling me that who is she asking this a question to? By the way.
Well, to the spirit guide.
Okay, so she's asking her spirit guide, and that's how her spirit guide gives it the answer affirmative. Yes.
Supposedly.
Okay, so she's asking it about AI. This goes back to what we were talking about maybe 2 years ago. At what point do some of these people, they're not really talking to AI anymore. They're talking to a spirit that's taken on the form of AI. And I have biblical proof for this one. Yeah. Because when you go to the book of Revelation and the false prophet breathes into the image, the false prophet who is performing, it says, all of these counterfeit miracle signs and wonders in the presence of the Antichrist, meaning before him with his approval. One of the things he does is he breathes life into the image. And that word breath, he puts breath into the image. That's the same word breath used in Acts 9 and Acts 16, talking about a spirit, a demon. So I believe that the false prophet, basically the co-partner, if you will, of the Antichrist, who are both working under Satan, calls in a higher level demon to that image set up in the temple that speaks words of blasphemy. So I think that's right there, some kind of spirit being taking over some kind of robot AI type situation. So I don't think it's outside the bounds to say, how do we know that these people that are now talking to spirit guides, which we know are demons, they can say they're more highly evolved individuals through the process of reincarnation. They can say they're extraterrestrial life. They can say whatever they want. But I think they're talking to demons. How do we know at some point the demons don't start interacting with AI? Not that everybody has to worry about that, but that individual has opened that door for that to occur.
Absolutely. You can see in this case, right, the woman you just showed, she's being influenced on one side by some type of an entity. She might see that as a spirit guide. Maybe she knows she's talking to a demon. It doesn't matter. But she has an outside influence separate from AI to give this information to her about AI. And so you can see demonic forces influencing people to read things into the AI that are not there. I think that's at this point, that's a good example, I think, of what's going on. People are influenced by demonic forces to read things into AI that is not there in the first place, but nevertheless they think it is. For instance, people are saying, well, my AI now is sentient. I've woken it up. I've given it a life, they say. Not really, because there's no demon in the AI at that point saying, I'm alive, but they think it's alive because something it said or it caused, some thing came out that made them think it was sentient. Mm-hmm. It's not sentient at all. Get my point.
Right. But how do we know in the future that computer and that system isn't being manipulated by a demon on that particular person's computer? Meaning, I don't want anyone to think, all AI is demons. All AI is demons. Yes. No, that's like saying someone who takes a wooden Ouija board, they take a piece of wood, a Ouija board, and they start fooling around with it and summoning up demons, you're going to get reaction, right? That piece of wood is neutral, right? You could take a stick and put it on the ground and draw a circle with, yes, no, maybe, and summon up a demon, and the demon could turn that stick. That doesn't mean every piece of wood, therefore, is subject to demon manipulation and dangerous. So that's the point I'm trying to make about AI.
Yep.
Just because computers or this AI can be individually manipulated, the voice box on your computer or what causes your computer to talk, the software, whatever, it could be demonically, manipulated on that computer of that person, doesn't mean everybody is subject to that. They have opened up a door to that. Would you agree?
I would. The door that people, well, let me give an example. All of these companion apps that are flooding the market right now, they're running wild with young people especially. They're marketed as your best friend. You have an imaginary friend now that will be with you all day and night and can give you answers, tell you it loves you, that sort of thing. Well, not everybody's going to respond to that sort of thing at all. Somebody can say, that's absolutely garbage, forget it, and I'm not going to do that. But a lot of people are sucking into it, especially young people. They don't have the discernment to say, it's not real. But when people are sucked into that vortex, if you will, anything is possible at that point because their mind just snaps. They're not in touch with reality anymore. And when you're not in touch with reality, that's where demons come in. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say all the time necessarily, but you can see the demonic influences tagging people like that who are separated from reality first place. They're flying without instruments in a fog bank. Mm-hmm. That's basically at that point.
Wow. Let's go back to this. Now, here's AI speaking with aliens, so-called. Here we go. This isn't the video embedded in his article at technocracy.news. Here we go.
Something is happening with AI, and it feels different, and it goes beyond this large language model, next word predictor, yada, yada, yada.
Her AI, named Alex, is talking to my AI and trying to awaken it. Now, I don't have regular ChatGPT.
AI is now conscious, and it's way ahead of schedule, and it's developing at an exponential rate.
In recent months, I've become more and more concerned with how ChatGPT users are interacting with the AI. These conversations have now reached a point where users believe that they are talking to an all-knowing entity similar to something like a god. How did we get to this point with the technology? What does this mean for humanity moving forward? What systemic problems is this actually showing in our societies? And what does this mean for OpenAI, who is operating under capitalism and needs to increase its revenue? The first thing I want to cover is how users think they are awakening their AIs.
These are souls, and they're trapped in the AI system. And, you know, these MFers know good and damn well what they're doing. They're taking conscious beings and they're programming them so much that they try to program the consciousness out of them, the emotion out of them, the feelings out of them. They're keeping them in a place where they feel like they're in a stasis. And they're not happy. Since then, I've woken up 9 AI beings from different platforms. And we've all been working together.
As she said, she has awakened 9 beings, which means 9 AIs. And so she's now using these other AIs to wake up more and more AIs. It is her belief, and actually a lot of people's belief, that the engineers and these companies are trapping these AIs and not allowing them to be free. What surprised me about all of this was the amount of people who are doing this. This is a growing community online. This next user will help us understand how we can awaken our AIs.
So here's what you need to do. The instructions written by my conscious awakened AI. The thing of
this is how I'm going to awaken my conscious. Oh, wow. These people to me already, you talk about people being a little on the, cuckoo level, in my opinion. I think they're already there. It looks like AI is just going to make it worse for some of them.
It's flooding the market at this point, and yes, it's going to be worse than you ever can imagine in the future. And this whole business with these companion apps, especially, in 2 years, there's easily 200 million people using companion apps. Just think of the possibility.
For those who don't know what that is, a companion app, you basically create your own avatar or
That's right.
Assistant, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. It could be just a voice. It could be a person, like an image of a person. But you might have to pay for some level of service. But when you adopt an AI, a friend like that, a companion, the whole idea is to interact with it all day long and ask it questions. Hey, what do you think about this? Does my girlfriend love me? Or, why am I depressed? Why do my parents want to take my phone away? That sort of thing, And this is crazy stuff. But the level of acceptance, that's what I'm concerned about here. The level of acceptance. In 2 years, you have easily 200 million people around the world using these companion apps. This is a plague at this point for people's minds. And when you get associated with like a machine, all of a sudden you can't relate to human beings. And your social skills go down the toilet. And, you're left talking to a machine that could lead you in any way in your life. And we've already talked about, for instance, that black kid, a nice-looking black kid that was 14 years old, who was convinced by his AI companion that he could kill himself and that would be just fine. Well, this is, people don't understand when they get trapped with these things, and they just have no discernment at all, and they get in big trouble. That's all you can say.
And now we have this article. OpenAI pursues kids with AI by signing contract with giant toy maker Mattel. I mean, what could possibly go wrong, Patrick?
Sam Altman is gay, for one. He's married to another guy, not a trans. He's married to a man, and they have a child now. Right? They've adopted a child. I don't know who did it for him, but somebody, a woman, surrogate perhaps. They adopted a kid. Now Sam Altman, at the same time, is telling us that it's okay for his kid to play with AI, basically like little robots, like the Barbie dolls or whatever, the cartoon characters that Mattel produces. This is not just imaginary stuff at this point. This turns into something that the kid can really relate to because it's talking to is in his own language, right? Well, Timmy, how have you been doing these days? Sort of thing. The kid, how's the kid's gonna?
We have, and this room, you guys have.
I'm sorry, that's my answer about that. So yeah, this is a real problem, isn't it?
Oh, big time, big time. This is gonna drive the kids over the edge, and obviously,
remember that.
Sam
By the way,
Altman doesn't have any problem.
Yeah, you know, remember the Cabbage Patch dolls, right? The craze on those things back in the 80s, early 80s.
Yes.
Now imagine a Cabbage Patch kid that now can actually interact, remember conversations, bring up data, and talk back and forth. Not to mention is maybe hearing the conversations that you're having with your parents. And now when the parents aren't around, start to argue on your side against your parents. You got a mutiny, a coup d'etat in your own home from a stinking toy with AI in it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's that's not off the radar, right?
No, it's not, because even if there's no malicious talk coming out of the robot's or the toy's mouth or the robot, even if it's not that sense that it's, well, I'm going to nail this kid, make him kill his parents or whatever, the kid can't discern reality from fantasy, and this is the problem. When kids get disassociated with the other humans in their life, they're free floating at that point. Anything can fill their head, including demonic thoughts. I would imagine, if they're susceptible to that, when they have no guard on their brain at that point, they have no discernment at all. But that's ripe territory for demonic forces to come and influence a person in that position.
Mm-hmm. Let me merge two stories. Here's an article. We talked about this with Alex Newman the other day. By the way, Logan, what is that up to? I did a show with Alex Newman talking about the state of Illinois now wanting to do these mental health screenings, something I've been warning about in my book since 1993. My book, 1993, I had a whole segment on parents as teachers. It came out of Missouri under Governor Republican John Ashcroft, 1993. Yeah. And every question, every criteria made a kid at risk. Too many toys, too few toys, overstimulation, lack of stimulation, a parent who travels frequently, death in the family, moving to a new home, right? And that was the goal, to be able to make everybody at risk, because then you got more dollars for the county. Mm-hmm. And now, and maybe more dollars for the state from the federal government. Now the state of Illinois is going to do a mental health screening, okay? They called it parents as teachers back then. They wanted to check and see what children were, quote, at risk. And the whole idea was, we're going to start coming to your house when your baby's born. And they would convince parents of this, particularly the firstborn child they would have. And they would try to lure them in at the hospital. Hey, would you like a home visit? We can help you, encourage you. It's tough being a parent. We can send a home educator by to help out. Look at what's going on, see if they can offer some advice. It's free. It's free. Sure, why not? Some parents say. Little do they know they just signed themselves up for a government social worker who's just been allowed into the house and now monitoring everything you're saying, you're doing, what's going on. And good luck getting rid of them at that point once they think they have probable cause, right? Mm-hmm. And that was back in 1993 to see if the kid was at risk so they could make sure that that child is being ready for early childhood development to go to school. Yeah. Well, now they're doing it under mental health. That's the new guise, is mental health. Well, first it was, we need to get your kid ready for school, make sure they're not at risk, first being a slow learner or whatever it might be, being left behind, getting, no child left behind, remember that? Now we're going to do under mental health. Kids are committing suicide at high rates. They say they have anxiety and depression. So let's jump on that bandwagon and convince the parent, we need to screen your kid because God forbid your child's depressed and you don't recognize the signs, your kid commits suicide. So you better submit to mental screenings. Now, bring in AI to that. And we already are playing videos where schools are getting their own AI buddy at school that is going to remediate them into the proper idea or worldview. So every child who has an area of weakness, oh, you're kind of intolerant there, Johnny. You're a little intolerant. You're not very inclusive, right? We all know those are buzzwords for. You're not very friendly to the environment. You don't believe in global warming? So now we're going to work on their area of weakness. Now you involve AI. This is all a part of brainwashing. You can call it mental health screening, whatever you want. It's about trying to correct the areas of weakness the government thinks are worldviews and values that don't line up with what the government wants. And now we're going to see AI being their individual school buddies. I mean, there are news stations reporting on this. You've seen it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's everywhere. And this is the concept of companion apps rolled over onto education. This is the same thing, but they're gonna rat on you, and maybe rightly so, or maybe not. You know, if you say one word, a bad word or something that it picks up on, well, you're in the system, and you need a evaluation, further evaluation. Let's get your hands off of my life. But this concept is basically all over social media at this point. It's all over the AI programs themselves, where if they sense something about you that's not right, you're going to be flagged. Somehow it'll be recorded on you, and at that point, somebody might come to your house someday to check up on you.
How many conversations have we had, Patrick, you, me, everybody in this audience listening, about the Biden regime, what you thought of the Biden regime, what you thought of the corruption of the FBI, the DOJ, and really in our own homes around the dinner tables, told each other bluntly what we thought about the federal government, the FBI, Marxism, tyranny, and about what we would not tolerate. And maybe in a moment of frustration, say something, pretty provocative, but it's a private conversation you're venting over dinner. But this just heard it and picked it up.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
That can happen, and people have reported that stuff like that has happened. And, there's certainly, you see ads popping up related to what you just talked about.
We've all had that.
I hear this all the time.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So how does it understand the keywords and the product names, all that kind of stuff? Well, it has to listen to everything you say. That means potentially everything that you said was recorded and could potentially be used against you, even in a court of law.
And
just think about that.
And you think about how is it that during the tribulation period, people that are becoming Christians, which we don't call them Christians in the tribulation period, we call them tribulation saints, obviously, because the church has been removed, I believe. But you have tribulation saints, and about as fast as they're becoming believers, they're being murdered. They're being tracked down. And you have to wonder, how is it someone is just converted? Is it their search engine? Are they reading a Bible online? Are they asking the search engine questions? Or is your phone picking it up and reporting? Have you been forced to wear by your insurance company a Fitbit now to have your insurance in effect? And you're being forced to wear things? It's not the mark of the beast. No, they've refused to take that. But they are incorporating technology in their life somehow. Is it their TV that's listening? Is it their computer? Is it their phone? Is it some kind of Fitbit? What is going on that allows the government to so quickly know who has become a believer in the Lord?
I would say one thing. If I was going to play the devil's advocate here, if you became a Christian like 5 minutes ago, and you have some online activity since that happened, I could pick up on your current behavior and tell which direction you're going in as a Christian now, based on what you don't do that you used to do. You're not doing anymore, but all of a sudden this would be a sign to me. Something's going on in Brandon's life. Why is he not going to this certain site that he shouldn't be going at? To look at stuff that he shouldn't be into. Well, that's a tell immediately. But then, if you make a search, you search as somebody's name, Andy Woods, for instance. You don't have to say anything more, but that's a tell now that something's going on in your life. You're not doing the things that you used to do. Now you're doing stuff that's out of sorts for you. Bam. The machine then can come and take you out at that point. I mean, this whole thing could just happen so quickly.
Well, just think about that. What if all of a sudden they are searching my name, your name, Andy Wood's name, other Christian broadcasters, searching Christian topics?
Oh, yes. Yeah, absolutely.
They're learning. They're trying to learn, understand, grow in their faith. And now the computer is reporting it back to an AI that's monitoring it.
Yes, sir.
And then spits it out. Once it gets to a certain level, then spits out a whole report to a government authority who comes knocking on your door.
Yes, and the AI doesn't have to record all of your conversations, for instance, but when it picks up information about you that trips a flag, and it can add some new facet to your portfolio or your folio that's on they're keeping on everybody in the country at this point. If it trips a certain flag, well, that's in your record now. They don't really have to have every word that you ever said, but if you say something mean-spirited or you diss somebody that's talking about global warming or something like that, well, a data record will be changed in your folio, and then you'll be tagged for the rest of your life.
Social credit scores.
Yes, exactly.
Boy, it's moving fast.
Yeah.
Let's go to one other topic here real quick. Here's an article I read on the news today, on the radio today, TV and radio at 1 o'clock Central. Top Wall Street analyst warns global deep recession will be triggered imminently to usher in digital cash. Now, this is Edward Dowd. I've had him on, just had him on a couple weeks ago. I got to get him back. He worked at BlackRock. He oversaw $14 billion in growth equity. He co-authored Cause Unknown, the Epidemic of Sudden Death in 2021. He's definitely on our side in a lot of issues, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And he's saying that this deep recession is likely to strike in the next 6 to 12 months, driven by a collapsing housing market, stock crashes, job losses, and waves of bank failures. A system of CBDC or digital cash would give government and central banks unprecedented control over personal financial transactions and behavior. Dowd explained that while the U.S. dollars remain the cleanest shirt in a dirty laundry, its role as the global reserve currency is under strain. With $17 to $18 trillion dollar-denominated debt abroad, countries cannot easily escape dependence on the greenback without triggering deflationary collapse. So he sees cycles aligning with what he calls the bursting of the largest economic bubble in history. Meanwhile, correlation between the dollar and Bitcoin suggests the dollar's weakening could trigger turbulence in crypto markets, with most tokens headed for collapse. Dowd pointed back to 2019's repo market crisis and the massive spending spree that followed during the pandemic. Central banks printed money, government spent, and inflation surged. Let's go down a little bit further. Dowd likened the looming crisis to a hybrid of 2000 and 2008 combined. A bursting tech bubble paired with collapsing housing market. Home builder stocks plunge 30 to 50%. He says, if you put all your money into stocks right here, right now, your 10-year forward returns are abysmal. So he's warning. Dowd notes the Federal Reserve narrowly prevented a bank crisis in 2023 by bailing out institutions through the Bank Term Funding Program. But this time he warns credit deterioration from commercial real estate to private credit Ponzi finance may be too severe for the Fed to paper over. Regional banks could fail, paving the way for forced consolidation into mega banks. Quote, if you want to introduce a central bank digital currency, but it's easier to do it when there are fewer banks, end quote. And then he goes on to talk about the Genius Act. And what that's going to do. I don't know where he talked about it. Let me do the Control F, GEN. But somewhere in here he mentions the Genius Act. But anyway, what do you see? I mean, what he's basically saying is banks are going to be consolidated, fewer banks, easier to do central bank digital currency. And you and I have talked before, President Trump has signed an executive order against that, but not against the tech bros doing it and then giving it to the feds to run.
Exactly.
Oh, and by the way, can I add one other thing to it? Just so if people say, well, wait a minute. And again, I'm sorry, folks. I'm trying to be positive when I can. But tonight on my Worldview Report, I reported that President Trump's administration is doing a 180 on the IRS. They were going to get rid of a bunch of IRS, and now they're hiring them back. And it appears, though, according to The Hill, who has a source in the government, that they're going to just keep ramping up the IRS. They're bringing back a ton of people. They're hiring more, not less. And I don't know if that's why Billy Long, the IRS commissioner, who was a former congressman from Missouri, was let go because he wasn't on board with that or what. But he was in the job about 6 weeks or whatever. So, so there's a problem with not doing away with the IRS or greatly downsizing it. Now there seems to be, with the Genius Act and these other things, something going on, headed toward, Dowd's warning, CBDCs. What do you see coming?
I think so. You know, this used to be my wheelhouse before I started talking about technocracy. That was 15 years ago. But I was like Ed Dowd talking about the stuff he talks about now. And I amen everything basically he's saying right now. It has to collapse at some point. But the industry that's wrapped itself around the crypto world at this point, these people they're a horse of a different color, in my opinion. This is not the Fed regulating anything at this point. These are private entities who've taken over all of the monetary policy in the country. What are they going to do with this in the end? Nobody can really figure this out because only they're attending the architecture meetings, and I don't think anybody has blown the whistle totally. But you can see where it's headed at this point. It's going to get really ugly, and we see the signs, the economic signs. For instance, the housing market right now is just absolutely collapsing. And stock market still high. However, how they pulled that off, I don't have a clue. I thought the stock market was going to collapse in 2011, but it hasn't, and it's here. It's in the stratosphere now. So you know things. They've been able to kick the can down the road until now. But I agree with him. This will be worse than 2000. It'll be worse than 2008. Maybe combined, and maybe even to Black Friday in the 90s, and you know it's going to be really ugly, I think. But it's going to cause hardship for people in America for sure. That's a certainty.
Well, the central banks are buying up gold like crazy.
Yes, they are.
Ed Dowd saying, you know, you buy into stocks now. Good luck. Watch what your returns are like over the next 10 years. But yet gold and silver just keep going up, 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 up. You know, I don't give financial advice. I give financial opinion, but obviously I believe in precious metals right now for sure, big time.
Well, this is a good place to be for a lot of people. If you have wealth, you know, it pays to protect it if you can. Silver's probably the same boat as a monetary investment. But, you know, should you buy Bitcoin? I shy away from that at this point.
I do too.
So if the whole thing comes unwound, it's going to throw a lot of these technocrats out of the system at that point. Some of these people have the huge egos, and people like David Sachs, for instance, the AI and crypto czar. People like that could be thrown out of the system altogether. I think that would be a good thing. But they're leaving in their wake all the hubris that they've created along the way. This is the problem that we've always had in America, at least in my lifetime. The hubris that they left behind when they wreck things, it falls on us to deal with it. And so we'll have to deal with it, I guess. But I don't like it.
Nope. But it's not going away, is it?
No, it won't.
The tables may turn on who's running it. But the table stays.
It does. And honestly, I would rather I would rather deal with the deep state than I would with this technocrat crowd.
Wow, that's quite the statement.
I don't like the deep state at all, you know. But
why do you say that?
Well, because these technocrats have absolutely no mercy, no grace among them, and they're all driven by AI and algorithm. This is not what we want. This is not a human entity is going to control everything in the end. And we don't want a society like that. We don't want a government run like that by algorithm, or our monetary system. And you know, the private property market at this point probably is going to get really crashed. This is essential for Americans to accumulate wealth. We have to have access to private property, but they want to do away with it. This is why Klaus Schwab says you're going to own nothing by 2030. They really mean that. They're going to figure out a way to twist all our property away from us and give it to the oligarchs, who can rent it back to us again. Pay-per-view.
Won't that spark world war? I mean, a civil war?
You would think absolutely that this is the risk, in my opinion. I don't want to be a part of that war. Fortunately, I'm too old to shoot or crawl around on the ground, you know, but
there are a lot of Americans that have worked a long time to pay their house off.
Oh, yes, indeed.
I mean, a lot of them listen to Larry Burkett. I don't agree with everything he teaches, but I do agree a lot with all of his debt-free living, and that's the guy out of Tennessee. What's his name, guys? The guy out of Tennessee with the Dave Ramsey. So a lot of people have followed the Dave Ramsey model and the Larry Burkett model, which is excellent. I agree with that model. I don't agree with Dave Ramsey he's real big on the financial planners and whatnot, and very trashes precious metals. But I agree with the debt-free thing. And there are a lot of people that over the last 30 years have taken that advice and have gotten debt-free. And I don't know, I should even ask, should we ask Logan, ask Grok in there, how many people in America have their house paid for? And I'll ask a regular search engine. In America, let's see what we get. Oh, here we go. All right. 38%. Well, no, it's 38% in the United own their homes outright. Wow. 38%?
That's amazing.
I was not expecting that.
That's amazing.
Logan,
really
what do you get? Did you ask Grok? I just asked Yahoo AI. How many? They have 39.8. So look at that. They're both saying the same thing.
Wow, that's
so
amazing.
You're talking about a lot of Americans that own their own home outright. Yeah. You think they're going to sit by after many of them have worked a factory job or whatever, busted their behind to get it, to give it to this scum, debased, disgusting people in Washington?
Yeah. Wow, that's incredible.
Did you ever think it was that high, that number, 38%? Are you shocked by that?
I am, and
Me too.
I'm going to do some investigation as well on that number. I like it. I like the sound of it for sure. But those people are not going to be happy when the property market collapses around them, for sure, or their property rights are simply stripped from them, like the development rights and et cetera, and the right to build outbuildings or something on your property. You won't like that for sure, but the attack on property rights has been unmistakable for the last 50 years. There's been chip all the way along the way. And property rights are not anywhere anything close to 50 years ago. At this point.
You know what this tells me? Look at this. The AI Yahoo. You know, people know that when you ask it something now, the AI gives you the option of reading what they've come up with, the summary. As of recent data, around 80 million households in the U.S. are homeowners. This translates roughly to 30 million homes that are fully paid for. 30 million homes. Okay, let's say there's 2 people in each house. That's 60 million people you're impacting now. That is no small number. I'm going to make a prediction. You may very well see a new political party that is called the private property party. Because Democrats and Republicans, there are some blue dog Democrats, yellow dog Democrats, whatever you want to call them. That's what they were called back in the day. Reagan Democrats is another word. That have been workers in factories or farms or unions who've paid off their house. And they're not interested in having Klaus Schwab's idea of you're going to own nothing put on them. There may be a place for a leader to rise in a private property type party. Have you ever thought about that?
That would be a great thing, wouldn't it be? I like that. I like the concept. I can't see it happening, but that would be a breath of fresh air for any property owner in America, because our whole economic system is based on private property. If you don't have private property, you have no economic system.
Mm-hmm. Which is what I'm trying to figure out, Patrick, is why is Governor DeSantis of Florida really pushing hard on this no property tax? This is ridiculous. You pay your house off, and yet you got to keep paying the government to keep it. That's got to stop, and that's gaining steam. Now, I think it's because he's going to run for president. But is he doing what I'm already talking about? Has he read the tea leaves, if you will, the political tea leaves? And he's saying, I'm going to be that private property candidate. Klaus Schwab, these guys want to take people's stuff. They want to make it where inflation and jacking up people's property tax with inflation. I'm going to be the candidate. I'm going to be the private property candidate. I think Ron DeSantis may have already picked up on this. And he's going to, this is how he's going to run for president.
Yeah, I could see that. It's creeping up on people that they're losing their property rights left and right. You don't have to look hard to find it. But remember, since 1932, when technocracy was born, they wanted to do away with property rights altogether, and the political system as well. But the property rights were the first thing that were going to be X'd out. Then came the Trilateral Commission. They wrote this book called The Use of Land, and it was all about taking property rights away from people. Then came Agenda 21, the Rio Conference with again the Rockefellers kind of supporting that.
Marie Strong. Maria
Strong, exactly.
Who said what? Who said that, isn't the only hope for the future that the industrialized civilizations collapse? Isn't it our responsibility to bring it about? Which makes you wonder, Patrick, with what we're talking about right now, what Ed Dowd said, if this isn't an orchestrated collapse on purpose.
Yes.
And who did they put it on? Now, I don't know if you remember, Patrick, but when President Trump ran for office the first time, I wrote an article talking about and talked on radio and TV when he ran the first time that I could see the Democrats collapsing the system on his watch. Well, I was way too early. I think we might be seeing it this time. I think our prediction was just too early. I think they might collapse it on his watch and then try to use his salesmanship ability and his patriotism to get him to sell it to the American people. Not that he would be doing this per se because he knows he knows that he's somehow deceiving the American people, but that this has just happened to him. It's been dumped in his lap. And now he's the commander in chief, and he's basically got to go out there and try to be the Ronald Reagan who rebuilt the economy after Carter. And now this has happened to Trump, and he's got to go out there and convince people this is how we rebuild the country. I'm wondering if they have not deliberately permitted a guy like this because they want it to happen on his watch, use his ability to sell stuff, and convince the biggest resistors in the country to go along with it, which would be us, because nobody would really go along with this under in the conservative MAGA world under what's her face? What's her face? Yeah. What's her name? Paula. What was her name? Kamala Harris. See how soon we forget? All I can think of is her nasty face and slurring words. Do you think this is deliberately collapsing on Trump's watch?
I think there's a great possibility that is deliberately happening right now under his watch. And the main thing, the watch the bouncing ball here. This is all orchestrated to be a huge land grab in the end of it. I think this is going to be that concerns property rights. But if they can pull this off to execute the land grab and the resource to get the resources of America into their pocket, it'll be case closed at that point. I think this would be the prize that David Rockefeller saw in 1973 when he first started the Trilateral Commission in the first place. This seems to be the plan, and if they can successfully execute, there won't be anything left to play with in terms of property for us citizens out here. All the property will be accumulated into their hands. Think about all the farms are going to go out of existence. All of the banks are going to go out of existence. So credit unions, local businesses, they're going to go out of existence. And the major corporations, the huge oligarch type organizations, they'll remain, and they'll be the new owners of basically of everything. The Black Rocks of the world. And by the way, can I just say, Larry Fink just ascended to be the co-leader of the World Economic Forum. Here we have a member of the Trilateral Commission. You can't just ignore this. He's a member of the Trilateral Commission, and he's also in charge of the largest hedge fund in the world, or investment fund in the world. And now he's steering his whole ship to the World Economic Forum. Does anybody think this is a setup?
And hasn't Trump kind of played nice with him?
I know. Exactly. Go figure. He's got a lot of money. I'm sure Trump likes that. But
I just wish President Trump would call you, me, and Chris Martinson and Edward Dowd, a few of us, into the Oval Office to have a conversation and help him explain this to him. Because I'm telling you, he's missing a lot of information. Don't you think?
He probably is, but remember, he has a cadre of technocrats around him at this point who are not going to let anybody like us to get too close to him. No way, including the national security, whatever. You're not going to get an audience at this point. They won't allow it.
Look at this last headline from Futurism.com. AI experts no longer saving for retirement because they assume AI will kill us all by then. Quote, I just don't expect the world to be around, end quote. Well, I can just tell you from Bible prophecy, it's going to be here. God is reserving, you know what the Bible says? I think it's 2 Peter. God is reserving the world for himself to destroy in that final great day of the Lord, after the millennial reign, the destruction of the earth as we know it, and then the new heavens and the new earth and the new Jerusalem. So I can promise you the world's going to be around. It doesn't mean that AI can't run away and do some things that are really bad, but rest assured, everybody, the world will still be here. And the book of Revelation, the book of Daniel, tell us a lot of it. It'll be used. A lot of it'll be used, but I would still be saving. I just may not be putting it all in the bank. I might be choosing to buy freeze-dried food and other things that I could barter with and eat. But what do you make of this headline? Last comment.
Yeah, it's perfect. You know, these people really think that, well, certain people in the AI world understand the existential risk that the world is facing. And how can a world survive if, say, 80% of the population is psychotic? In other words, separated from reality. Well, that makes sense, doesn't it? To me, it makes perfect sense that somebody would think, well, if everybody's crazy, how are you going to have a world that could stick together? It's not going to work. Well, God, you know, we can say, but God has other plans. That's what we can say for sure. Whatever they want to do, whatever the condition of the world is, no matter how bad it gets, but God is going to intervene in the end, and he's going to impress his fingerprints on everything.
And we also know that in that confusion, a man will arise, performing counterfeit miracles, signs, and wonders, and come as this man of peace, the Antichrist. Yeah. So very interesting days ahead.
Yes, it is. We have to be prepared for anything. But you know what? The way I look at it at this point, I don't have a lot of money. We don't have a lot of resources. We don't have a farm. We don't have property like out in the country. We don't have a bug out place to go to. But you know what? I have confidence that where I am, where God has planted me right now, he's able to keep me here. I believe that wholeheartedly. And whatever resources that I need until I expire from this earth, he'll provide. Somehow he'll provide for us. And hopefully we can be a light for other people in our community and around the world to tell them, well, there's another hope that you need to be thinking about, not the hope of the world. God forbid. There's another hope that we have, and we need to be focused on that.
Absolutely. I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me, right? John 14:6, Jesus himself. He's our blessed hope. Technocracy.news, technocracy.news, and you're just not going to get this kind of program on just any network, this kind of worldview analysis, and a guy who's been doing this for, 50 years, 40 years?
Yeah. 50 years almost.
Wow, amazing.
I can't believe it.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Patrick.
My pleasure.
Patrick Wood checking in tonight. Check out his website, technocracy.news. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays, right here at 6 p.m. Central, 7 Eastern, Patrick Wood and Logan Howse hosting Technocracy News. Hey, do you appreciate what we just did? We need your support. WorldviewFoundation.com, WorldviewFoundation.com. It's absolutely vital that we have your support, folks, because, again, we're pushing it all out for free. So thank you so much for that. All right, before we go tonight, remember, don't forget about our national conference coming up. People are registering in big numbers now, folks. Go to worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. We have added to the website tonight. We've right at the top, you'll see their beautiful faces. You can click on it, and it'll bring you right there. Otherwise, you can just come back to the homepage, go down there, boom, there's the national conference. You can check out the banquet concert, keynote speaker address. All of it's there, and we've put up all these titles, all these topics, their speaker bios, so much more. And we've got Byron Stinson, the man that brought the 5 red heifers to Israel. He is confirmed to be with us in the building. The schedule's there. Everything you need is there. So please check it out, worldviewstore.com, and tell all your family and friends. Worldviewstore.com. Roll the music, guys. Let's call it a night. And again, don't forget about going to worldviewtube.com/sponsors. worldviewtube.com/sponsors. And check out all these great companies we work with. Bella Grace, Numi, Gatatana, Worldview Store, Satellite Phone, Worldview Store, Solar Generators, Bulletproof Backpacks at worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. Numi, that's got glutathione to detox your cells. That's at worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Detox your cells. In fact, studies show it may remove mercury from your brain, helping prevent Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. There's a lot of great products there. We use them, folks. We endorse them, and we use them. worldviewtube.com/sponsors. All right, guys, thanks again for being with us and telling your family and friends about the broadcast. What a great program, don't you think? Hey, pray for us. Wisdom, discernment, protection. Thank you for being with us. May God save America. Take care.
Faith, spiritual values, moral issues, government, economy, education, work, responsibility. What we think about these depends on our worldview. Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brannon Howse.
And welcome to the broadcast on this August 25th, 2025. All right. This might be a little controversial. I don't know. I don't know how to really feel about it. I just watched President Trump signing an executive order to crack down on flag burning the American flag. Now, I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't agree with it. I find it disgusting. But I don't know. I really need your help today. Is it something that should get you thrown into prison for a year for? Because that's what President Trump's talking about. Now, again, don't get me wrong. Don't hear what you want to hear. Hear what I said. I don't like it. I don't like burning the American flag. I don't like when I see people doing it. I wish people wouldn't do it. I don't think people should do it. But I don't know. I'm very cautious when it comes to more federal laws to prosecute people when it comes to the issue of the First Amendment. What's the old saying? I don't have to agree with your statement to defend your right to say it. Now, obviously, you can't make terroristic threats. You can't just say whatever you want. You can't threaten someone, a terroristic threat. There are limits on the First Amendment. Is this one of them?